World History Discussions on the Traditions and Encounters World History Textbook, Chapter 6, Part 1, Early Societies in the Americas and Oceania. And I'm going to consider that previous video to just be an introductory video. So this will be Part 1 of the actual discussions, and it all starts with our catchy opener. I'm not going to say certain words in here because this one's a really catchy one, for better or for worse. It involves some private parts, so I'm just going to call it that. In the year 683 CE, Chan Bahalam cuts, I think that's how you pronounce it, I don't know, but he cut slits into his privates to honor his deceased father, Pakal, the king of Palenque in the Mayan Empire of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. You can see it right there on the map. This was done in order to prepare Chan Balaam to succeed his father as the king of Palenque. To honor the gods, men would often cut their private parts while women would cut their tongues. Ouch, that sounds pretty painful if you ask me. I know I'm being ethnocentric, but ouch, that does not sound fun. Anyway, according to the Mayan legend, the gods had shed their blood to water the earth and nourish the crops of maize. The gods expected humans to honor them by imitating this sacrifice so that crops could grow. I actually really do find it interesting because this is a world that's completely removed from the Eastern Hemisphere. And we're going to talk about the interconnectedness of religions, but next few chapters, as I mentioned in my last video, are going to be all about Eurasia and maybe a little bit of North Africa and cross-cultural interactions in the Eastern Hemisphere. But this part of the world, Mesoamerica, is completely cut off, at least according to most people's beliefs, from the Eastern Hemisphere until 1492, and I believe that there wasn't much, if any, interaction between the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere. Best piece of evidence is that after 1492, more than 95% of the population in North and South America died from diseases they had no immunity to. The reason I make that point is there are some people that say, oh, the Egyptians may have sailed over to the Americas and the Romans may have sailed over to the Americas, and it's possible, but there would be more immunity to disease if there had been major contact between the Eastern and Western hemispheres before 1492. But what I do find interesting is that considering that this society was almost certainly completely cut off from the Roman Empire or any Eastern Hemisphere society, their religion centered on blood sacrifice, which might sound foreign, but when you think about it, Christianity centers on that too. Jesus dies on the cross so that humans can live, and similarly, these gods sacrificed their blood in order to bring humanity into existence, and now humanity has to shed its blood in order to appease the gods. That's just something that's very interesting in my opinion. But that is our catchy opener on the spilling of blood to honor the gods. And again, notice the years, it's in the 683 CE, not BCE, but CE. We won't get to that year in the Eastern Hemisphere until starting in chapter 13. In other words, several chapters down the road. But this chapter is going to go ahead and skip ahead and cover these classical civilizations in Central America or Mesoamerica. And that's a pretty cool opener. So yeah, I'm going to start talking about these societies in the very next video.